So for you, entering this camp, just where the state of the team, where what you guys were able to accomplish last season, what's the mindset, coming in?
Yeah, I mean, if you look where we were 2 years ago, we drafted Owen. So that's when you're drafting first overall, you're in a position that you don't like. So from 2 years ago to now, we have the group itself has moved along quite a ways, and built and learned and progressed to the point where even at the end of last season, we could start talking about playoffs as an expectation, as a legitimate goal, and that's where we're at. That's where we wanted to be. Our job as coaches, the job is to win. And 2 years ago, we weren't in a position to really go after wins. We had to grow. We had to gain experience. We've got it to the point now where, these guys winning should be expected on a nightly basis. You should go into games expecting to win. We spoke about last season. You had a feeling and a thought you could win, but that's shy of a conviction that you should win. And I think last season moved us to that, toward that point of having a greater conviction about final result.
In that sense, Don, how important is it to make that switch? We hear Kyle saying we can't run away from, we can't be afraid of the expectations, and we heard Kevin up here earlier saying the window is open for this team.
Yeah, I don't think they're afraid of any expectations because there's ability behind it. Like I said, 2 years ago, we drafted the first pick overall. And then we started that season 2 years ago in 31st place, 32nd place, basically. So this group, these guys have moved that, to that position now. They've seen their own growth. If I look at three big components to success, you have to have skill. We've advanced that skill. Guys have moved into career years, and so they've shown that they've had skill. They've gained that confidence that we have skill in the NHL. Experience. They've gained experience. We talk about being so close last year. That's an experience. Using situations to grow as a player. And then the last part of the big three, skill, experience, and accumulation of experience, is the psyche. And we know we lost games last year, and I've said it to you guys, toward the end, you lose game 52 and you think that was your demise. You think that we just lost game 52, we're not going to make the playoffs. And you have to go through that to realize that you can't sweat that one loss. You just got to move on right away. And we carried losses in. We felt at times that failing meant we were a failure, and that was misinterpreted. So they're in a much better place of confidence, moving along toward that greater conviction. I'm very comfortable with where we're at and pressure that comes with being in this position. I think Kevin said it this morning. We talk about it a lot. Being in this position and the pressure that comes with it is a privilege. We didn't have this type of pressure 2 years ago because we weren't good enough. We're good enough to have this pressure right now. It's time to embrace it.
Of those big three, what is the thing that I guess makes you the most confident that you can improve this year and ultimately reach those expectations?
Gained experience. You can't will your experience on someone. Kyle Ekposo couldn't will his experience on the next guy, and vice versa. They've had to go through situations, and that's growth. Yeah.
But at the same rate, how can Eric Johnson help Darlene or Power? Darlene's already talked about him and what he's done for him in the short time they've been together. He has so much experience, whether it's winning a Stanley Cup or being first overall or the whole thing. Where can he help?
Well, he'll help immensely in lots of different ways, but just walking with less fear, more confidence, and they're again, when you don't have experience, a down can hit your psyche like was this the end? But when you've gone through the years in situations that that Eric has gone through, you realize that, okay, and we might not have had it tonight. Let's not overthink this, because we got to get on a plane and get ready for tomorrow. Let's not allow this to carry over. Let's not allow this goal in the first period to carry over, and before we regain ourselves, there's another 1 or 2 in our net. And we've seen that with guys, and you know, that's that poise is a form of confidence.
Victor is back, and there was a school, I mean, there was a belief he might not be. What gives you belief that he can get out of what he was in last year and go back to being the player we saw at times last year over those stretches?
My belief in Victor is that he works intently to find ways to resolve issues and become better. Simple as that. So that's where my confidence is in Victor. I see him actively engaging, not dwelling.
With Jack's absence for the first half of the year, how do you view that competition amongst guys that are looking to take that, maybe not that spot in the lineup, but just that spot on the roster?
I don't know if guys process that way. I mean, they come into camp, and I don't think they're thinking, "Oh, there's a spot open now." They just want to play. They prepare themselves to play and play their best, and so I don't know that is something that our locker room is calculating. These guys just want to play hockey. So
Down a year ago, got to camp. Devon Levi was in college. He was a someday guy. Someday came a lot sooner than people thought. I mean, you got 7 games, you got that sample. What is your mindset about Devon Levi as an NHL goaltender right now going forward?
yeah, that someday came with a bang, didn't it? I mean, he and you mentioned mindset and psyche. We've already touched on as one of the big 3: skill, experience, and your psychological state, your confidence. You know, I think about it. I think about so many goalies. The goaltender that was in so many goalies, young goalies or rookie type goalies, guys without a lot of experience, have won Stanley Cups in the last 10 years. You know, look at the last year with Vegas. You know, was the goalie they used in the finals their first choice 3 months prior or 4 months prior? Wasn't their first or second choice from what I understand. So, you know, Devon has that psyche in order. He has skill, and he fast track. He takes experience in faster than most. So if you're looking at kind of those big 3, he has lots of really incredible tangibles. Now, we could say, oh, in the context of the NHL, this doesn't happen, but you know, there's only one goalie plays in a game, so these guys typically don't get a chance to play until they're 25, 26 years old. Somebody else has the net. We're not in that situation, so I don't think it's I think that's the rarity, is there's actually opportunity here where there typically isn't. He seized his opportunity last year, and I know he came into camp very well prepared. I saw him play today, and every shot in the practice matters to him, and he processes it to learn how to not let that happen. He lost a 3-on-3 game at the end, and I know he's probably taken that off the ice with him, and he'll figure out a way to be better because of it. So,
How do you balance how much you can throw at him, knowing that this is going to be his first full NHL season? Are there limits to what you want to throw at him so it doesn't overwhelm him, or do you want to see what might overwhelm him to see what that limit might be?
yeah, I think it's a read and react. It always is. You know, you could come in here with I could throw down a 300-page coaching manual, but as soon as the season starts, just toss it in the garbage. It's you got to read and react, and you're obviously coming from a base, but you know, we have sports science guys that monitor workload. So, you know, even after, you know, if he played 2 games in 3 nights and he's on the ice, we'll see workload response and say he needs a rest here, as we do with every guy. So that fits in the category of how we would manage anyone else. You know, older guys playing and fighting through nagging injuries, you know, your mind and all of our minds will say, oh, he's played a college season, and which is whatever 36 to 40 some games, and the NHL is 82 games, and it's different. So you're going to look at work to rest ratios, and you're going to make sure you're trying to figure out as you move along how taxing was that last game or this last sequence of games or travel and whatnot. So we'll gauge it and monitor it through the course of the year as we would every single player.
What about mentally? Just the mental stress that comes with
Yep.
goaltending and knowing that there might be, as all goalies go through, peaks and some valleys in the season.
Yeah, I was just going to say we all know. I mean, we watch sports. There's ups and downs,
Right.
and you know you work to limit them, but there's ups and downs. Some nights you walk out on that rink and the other team is way fresher than you, and you just can't do a damn thing, and you reel, and it can hit your confidence, and any ups and downs and challenges that he goes through as everyone else has to become greater experience. You know, that's the beauty in adding Clifton and Eric Johnson. They have more experience and hindsight, and they can calm the rest of the group and recalibrate them, refocus them, help us do that faster and quicker and more efficiently. So you know he's going to have ups and downs. Every player has ups and downs, and I think he has the tools to limit the downtime because of his daily routine, his habits, his ability to zero in. As I thought last year, pulling Jack Quinn out of the fire for a little bit in one game, I stood here plenty of times and said, he's a highly intelligent player. He might not have looked like himself tonight. He will be ready a game from now. I have no problem throwing him back in the lineup. I'm just helping him step aside for a moment, take a breather, and knowing that he could do that. And so I would say, just as we've seen Jack Quinn be a very highly intelligent player, I think Devon fits that very well.
How about Luukkonen at 24 years of age? I mean, he had a really good stretch last year. He had some stretches he probably, want back. Do you see improvement in him now that he'll be able to be more consistent in his game?
Well, I saw improvement in him last year. When you ask me improvement in him now, I'll tell you that in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. But he did show really good signs last year, and I think I think Craig Anderson was a again, to reference Eric Johnson and these guys you put experience around him. I thought Craig really helped our guys, and I thought he helped Devon at the end of the year, acclimate to the point they grew a lot last year. But as far as evaluating him now this year, I can't evaluate him on the summer, so we'll monitor it as they move along here.
How will you, Marty, and Dan, throughout training camp, given the number of defensemen you have who are capable of playing at this levels, settle on defense pairs? Who looks back? You've got a lot of right-handed shots, and you got different skill sets. What's it going to be like here the next few weeks, seeing the right matches and who can play with who?
Well, I thought Clifton and Darlene were very impressive out there, and impressive in the sense they both read the play the same together. They're one's moving off the other, and it showed the experience, obviously, of Connor to mesh so quickly in a practice, and that's a luxury to have, based on where we were bringing guys along last season. I do see that we'll mix a lot on that, and you guys know that I'm big on that because 82 games in playoff series, you have injuries, and guys need to be able to step into different roles and situations. So we continue to mix them that way. We continue to, you might have played with this guy last night, but you're going to practice with this guy in preparation for some of the unknown that you do know will happen at some point.
Coach, given the season that Casey Mittelstadt had last year, just proving that he can really play alongside a bunch of different guys on different lines, what role do you see him having headed this season? What do you want to see from him?
Well, with Casey, he really did finish impressively strong. He moved up to a line with Tuck and Skinner, and they were dominant. And it showed how much Casey persevered and was ready for more opportunity. and it showed his growth. He is a ultra competitive guy, which might be hard for anybody to really understand. This guy is ultra competitive, but over his career in the last 2 seasons, he's been taken out of that, just trying to survive through injuries and then carve a niche for himself, and his focus has been on that. Now that he's established himself to a greater level, I think everybody's going to start to see the stuff we've been seeing behind the scenes and talked about. I had moved him around last year from wing to center. We'll do the same. I think for me, ideally, I would love to keep him at center more than not. But we'll see how it goes. And we know he's meshes with lots of different people because he sees and feels the game very well. He buys time for his line mates. He can possess a puck and extend a possession. Even the ability to extend a possession 1 second longer forces the opposition to cover. There's a movement on the ice, and everybody has coverage. But the ability of a guy to hang on to a puck for 1 extra second, you think of the elite players in the league, now it causes a secondary coverage, and 5 players in the other team have to make a decision as there's handoffs. And that's the ability for KC Mittelstadt to extend a possession is very, very hard on other teams. And you saw Tuck and Skinner able to exploit that skill of his versus the other team late in the season. That is elite. So we want to, find chemistry for him and as a priority, and we'll gauge that through camp and probably into the season.
Obviously, we know some of your history with Connor Clifton, but what are you most excited about what he's bringing into this room?
Grit. He's a very gritty guy. And I mentioned conviction and confidence. He's been confident and convicted in how he plays since he's 16 years old. I play this way, and I own this. I will own this situation unequivocally, and that confidence is immense.
His way of, when he looks you in the eye, has he always been like that when he's talking? It seems so unusual. Well, I'm not saying it's bad. It's a good thing, but just the way he looks you in the eye as he's talking to you, it's almost disarming.
I'm not quite sure what you're referring to, a one-on-one interview or
Every question that he was asked
Yeah.
at that podium, he looked the reporter straight in the eye for as long as he was answering that question. And maybe that's a reflection of his
So I could
condition.
learn from him, is what you're saying, John?
What's that?
So I could learn from him?
I'm sorry?
I could learn from him, is what you're saying?
No.
No, he is.
But has
he
he
is-
always been like there is
He is,
focus and a confidence?
as a very young kid, he was just dialed in and competitive, ultra competitive. He was the guy as a 16-year-old. Within 3 minutes of a game, the entire bench knew Connor Clifton was on your team immediately, and he loved it. And they would, not only did they know he was on the team, they respected him, because if you weren't watching out for him, you'd get run over. And that was from day one, and he's been able to carry that through, obviously, in the NHL to a very impressive level. He's not a big guy. He's just extremely strong on his skates.
Benson enters his first NHL training camp here. What did you see this past weekend from him?
Well, what I thought he was great through the rookie tournament. Lots of guys were. A whole nother level today when we had him with Thompson and Skinner. You could just see how he processes. In a visual for everyone is, the ice gets bad and there's a pass to him on an entry, and a defenseman coming at him, and the puck bounces and it's off the ice. He's got to take it in his feet with a guy coming at him, yet he doesn't panic. It didn't cause stress. He was able to handle it skill-wise, knowing where Thompson and Skinner were headed, and which one of those two was open or not open, and make a play. And so that situation normally makes a guy anxious. It didn't make him anxious because he has a feel for the game and skill to match it. So I thought he was real good out there today. Obviously, size and strength are issues, and those are big issues, right? When any player is moving from, at his age, from a junior level into NHL practices and preseason games, those are big challenges. And but he was, from the cognitive processing and hand and puck skills, he was really impressive today with those two players.
Eric is equipped to handle ups and downs of being a backup or third goalie in the organization, but as you saw him go through that last year, through the winter and stuff, what did you kind of learn about how he handled that?
He is I mean, we like to use the term pro, and in sports world, he was a pro. He is a team first guy, very selfless guy, and a very relentless worker. He kind of edges in the category of almost of working too hard. He'll exhaust himself. He'll stay out on the ice until he's completely exhausted, not cognizant of how this may affect him the next day from a fatigue standpoint. He's a relentless worker and a great teammate.
What do you think is the next step for Peyton Krebs after the year he had last year?
Just to build. So the next step, continue the direction he's going, and that would be working to keep his game simple, keep his game more direct. Obviously, he's taken a lot of pride in his career about making plays, and it's a challenge because lots of plays you made at prior levels, they were against players that aren't in the NHL. So you end up forcing plays in the NHL where you think you're going to make a play, it's a forced play. The opposition read it already. But I thought he came a long way in keeping things simple, learning to simplify his game. When he learns that, as he learns that more and more every day, he's going to be able to make better and better plays. He's going to see when lanes are truly open, because you can't go down the rink and try to make the play you want to make every time. Sometimes it's just not there. Most of the time it's just not there. And I think he's grown in that area, and I think he recognizes and is hungry to grow more.
Don, you did it last year, but I know the circumstances were a little bit different. What is your take on three goalies carrying them for the majority of the season or an entire season?
Yeah, we'll do what we have to do. It is not a concern either way right now. I mean, you kick around lots of different scenarios through the summer. Lots of ifs, that, if this, if that, and then you say, okay, we went through all these scenarios in our head, we wrote it down on paper, we're going to have to make a decision, and that decision is going to come in early October when we have to put a roster together, and we'll have a ton more information at that point to make that decision. So if we make a decision that's three goalies then, I'm extremely comfortable because we're doing it with lots of information. So.
Is there any kind of intangible that can give a player an edge if they're in competition for minutes or spot in lineup or any of that sort? That's something outside of just like the raw performance itself.
So you asked, is there an intangible that can get earn a player a spot?
Win them a spot over something else.
Yeah, the intangibles in the game would be knowing your identity as a player, knowing what's expected of you by the coaches in your organization. So what role are we putting you in, who are we putting you with, and what's the situation in the game? If it's up 3-2, are you aware that we don't need to take any risk right now, we're winning 3-2? That puck needs to be to a spot that's difficult for the other team. So really that game knowledge, that game awareness, these are intangibles. Knowing your identity, how to impose your identity. Is the situation right now for me to try to make this play, or is it not right for me? So again, those are all the intangibles that we would be evaluating. The sense of self, sense of situation, within the game, within the context of the game, the score, the time of the game. When we have players that have evolved that, Lucas Rusek comes to mind. He's very good in those areas, and he proved that with his time last year. He has a really good feel for that. There's one guy that would come to mind that's in that mix, obviously. Thank you.